Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this special transmission. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this special transmission. I am your host Umar Khalid Butt, and we will be talking about Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to the United States. Of course, this trip to the United States becomes even more important in the context that he is going to address the United Nations General Assembly on Friday, the 27th of this month. He's already arrived in the United States as we speak. And this visit, why is it important, and why is his speaking at the United Nations General Assembly important? Because it is in the context of the Kashmir issue. The Kashmir issue which is unresolved, the Kashmir issue which has taken a new turn for the West since the 5th of August when Articles 370 and 35A were scrapped, as a result of which more than 800,000 people in Indian occupied Kashmir are under a crisis-like situation. They are under a curfew. There is a restriction to access to medicine or healthcare or hospitals or even the commodities of life such as water and food. There are strong reports of torture on the youth. Thousands of people have been put into jail, so much so that the jails in Indian occupied Kashmir are now full and they have been shifted to other jails such as the Tihar jail and other jails in India. In addition to that, the sane voices coming from the political circle in India are being shut down, whether it be through house arrest of people such as Mahbooba Mufti or other leaders in Indian occupied Kashmir, or other leaders who are trying to get access to Indian occupied Kashmir are not being given access to that region. Now, lately the Indian Supreme Court has given the authorization for some leaders to go to Indian occupied Kashmir, but what good will that do? Now, in addition to that, there are other issues troubling the Indian occupied Kashmir as well. The most important of that is the right to self-determination of these hapless people of Indian occupied Kashmir. Will this eventually result in them getting their right to self-determination, or will it take a turn for the worst? Remember, these are two nuclear armed countries, Pakistan and India, and they have come face to face as a result of the scrapping of the Articles 370 and 35A and the curfew in Indian occupied Kashmir, where around 1 million Indian troops are currently present. This is the longest spate of curfew in any place in the world ever. Now, to talk about Prime Minister Imran Khan's this trip to the United States, how important is it going to be as far as highlighting the Kashmir issue and finding a resolution of the Kashmir issue is concerned, as well as other, of course, important details that we will be discussing when it comes to climate change, when it comes to sustainable development, universal health coverage, or financing for development, and many other topics that the Prime Minister will be talking about during this trip. We have been joined by three important guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. On my very right is Mr. Saeed Khalid. You are a former ambassador. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you here on this show. Our second guest is Dr. Nazir Mahmood. You're a columnist and a journalist. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have given us the time. Our third guest is a regular on our shows. Thank you very much, Dr. Rifat Hussain, to have joined us for this show. You're a strategic analyst and you talk about national and international affairs with a lot of eloquence. Let's begin with you, Saeed Khalid Saab. Saeed Khalid Saab, this is not the first trip of Prime Minister Imran Khan to the United States. In fact, it's second. Keeping in view the importance that even US President Donald Trump has put on Prime Minister Imran Khan, the last visit, and the contact that both leaders had, and since then also, US President Donald Trump has time and again said that he'd like to mediate on the Kashmir issue between the two leaders. How important do you feel is A, this trip of Prime Minister Imran Khan to the US, B, his address to the United Nations General Assembly?
Omar, I feel that this is the Prime Minister's first major appearance on the international stage. As compared to the bilateral visit he paid to the US. This is like visiting the center stage, being on the center stage. And although this is something which happens regularly, which happens every year, that world leaders, they assemble in New York in the UN in the last week of September for the General Assembly. But for, I guess that the Prime Minister had reasons not to travel to New York last year. He had just taken over as Prime Minister, and I think he was fully occupied with his, program of his government and the economic issues and so on and so forth. So he decided not to go. And I think the world, the media, the international leaders, they always look forward to a new leader's entree on the stage.
All right.
And so I think it is an important event.
As far as his address to the United Nations General Assembly is concerned, especially when we look at what's happening in the region, whether it be Indian occupied Kashmir or other issues that plague the region, how important do you feel the address of Prime Minister Imran Khan will be on the 27th, that is the coming Friday?
I believe that he is going to make a policy statement, which basically means that you make a solemn declaration of your views of the international situation, regional situation, and you give your considered reaction to that. And we are all looking forward to hear exactly, to see exactly what the Prime Minister has to say at this stage, when the Indian Prime Minister is also going to be there, and we are told that the Indian Prime Minister would have already spoken before our Prime Minister addresses the General Assembly.
All right.
So I think the context becomes very important.
All right. The context becomes very important, Dr. Nazir Mahmood Saab. Also, given the fact that Narendra Modi as well as Imran Khan Saab both have a strong relationship with US President Donald Trump, and the US President wants to talk to them separately. On the, of course, the 22nd as well, there's the Howdy Modi, the huge rally that is happening in Texas, with around 50,000 or so participants gathering together. So both the Indian and the US leaders will be there. What tilt will the US President take this time when it comes to mediation of the issues pending between India and Pakistan, especially the issue of Indian occupied Kashmir?
Well, I think this PM's visit should be taken into consideration with two yardsticks. One yardstick of meeting with President Trump, and the other, as you mentioned, United Nations General Assembly. Now, the meeting with Trump, I think we should be very careful and we should not pin too many hopes on the meeting with Trump. Why? Because last time also, when in July, I think that was 22nd July, when Prime Minister Imran Khan met with President Trump, and at that time also, we became very ecstatic, and immediately we started kind of celebrating that it was a success, and Trump supported Pakistan. But later on, within a couple of days, it realized that after when Prime Minister Imran Khan came back, within 2 weeks, India annexed Kashmir. And in fact, President Trump did not condemn it. So this time also, I think the situation is very tricky. And though we think, we would like to think that America considers both Pakistan and India on equal footing, but if recent events are any guide, that is not happening.
All right.
Why that is not happening? Because we have seen that overall American tilt is more towards India and towards Narendra Modi. We have been trying to highlight Kashmir issue very vocally. Shah Mahmood Qureshi, our foreign minister, has been doing it. Prime Minister has been doing it. But the reaction that we would like to have seen from United States, that has not come up.
All right.
So this is very clear. So this is one. So the situation is very tricky. So we need to be very careful and do not pin much hope from Trump. This is number one. Number two, United Nations General Assembly address will be very crucial. And of course, Kashmir is a very important issue, and we should be highlighting that, as you mentioned, that a lot of atrocities are being committed. People are under practical curfew. But having said that, if Prime Minister only concentrates on the Kashmir issue in the UN General Assembly, I do not think that that will be a good idea. We should be talking about Kashmir, but there are other regional issues also that are very important. For example, peace in Afghanistan. Recently, Trump cancelled negotiations with Taliban. Then Iran and Saudi Arabia issue is also there. So I would like to see what Prime Minister comes up. If Prime Minister Imran Khan in the entire speech simply talks about Kashmir, Kashmir is an important issue, but he should also be considering some other practical aspects of this region also.
All right. As Dr. Nazir Mahmood said, Kashmir should not be the only agenda during the speech of Prime Minister Imran Khan to the United Nations General Assembly on the coming Friday. But do you feel the emphasis should nevertheless remain on Kashmir?
Absolutely, Umar. Because why did the Prime Minister decide to go to the UN General Assembly session in the first place? Because the situation now that prevails against the backdrop of Indian brutalities and Indian lockdown of Kashmir, and it's almost, by the time Prime Minister speaks to the UN General Assembly, it will be the 50th day of non-stop curfew and and the lockout of the Kashmir situation. So Prime Minister should address that issue. But I agree with Nazir Saab that that should not be the only focus. But the 12 minutes that the Prime Minister has, in which he wants to deliver a policy statement on the range of issues, climate change, Afghanistan, and so on and so forth, and particularly the mounting tensions in the Gulf region, would require Prime Minister to balance Pakistan's concerns vis-a-vis Kashmir in regard to the other issues that are equally important, if not more important. So I think Prime Minister has to divide his time. And the other thing is that Modi would have spoken by that time.
Yes.
So the question is that what kind of a charge sheet is going to bring about against Pakistan. So Prime Minister in his speech has a very good opportunity that he should address some of the questions that may not have been part of the written speech, but he should be prepared.
But the Prime Minister is quite extempore in the way he
Of course he is. So one would expect that whatever allegations, and Indians are going to level allegations that there are violations of human rights in Gilgit-Baltistan, the Balochistan issue, and we are familiar with the Indian
and their recent spate of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir Twitter statements.
And particularly, I think Pakistan must rebut the statement which was put out by Indian Foreign Minister Jaishankar, in which he said that India would like to see physical jurisdiction over the what they call the Pakistan administered Kashmir. So that's a very aggressive and a very
extremely aggressive, sir, and not the only aggressive statement that has come.
So I think Pakistan should take on these Indian false allegations against Pakistan front on, and should craft a message which should focus, which should give a due focus to the Kashmir issue along with the other issues. So it is an important opportunity for Pakistan to present its case, and Prime Minister has taken it upon himself in which he has said that several times.
He's the ambassador. He claims that he is the ambassador of the Kashmiri people.
So the Kashmiri people will be looking towards Prime Minister's advocacy of the Kashmir at this important forum.
All right, Saeed Khalid Saab, when we kind of have a little idea of what the Prime Minister is going to do once he's there, whether he speaks at the Asia Society of Council of Foreign Relations or Shah Mahmood Qureshi Saab addresses the Kashmir group of the OIC as well. And there are also talks with the think tanks, human rights organization heads, and media external boards as well. All of these talks are very important in the context to give Pakistan's point of view on not only Kashmir but the entire situation and Pakistan's stance on different issues that plague the world, including that of Indian occupied Kashmir. In all of that context, how much do you feel has Pakistan succeeded in portraying its image, in portraying what positive steps it has taken in the last year or so as far as playing a part in regional and international affairs is concerned?
I believe that Pakistan's role in the region, given its geostrategic importance, its geographical situation, and this goes back, to the creation of Pakistan, when the Americans were not very keen on the division of India. And the Quaid-e-Azam met the American Chargé d'Affaires in Delhi, and he explained to him what future role this new country could play in the region, particularly with, at that time, Afghanistan was not a problem, but he mentioned particularly with reference to the Middle East. And it was one of the arguments which sort of persuaded the Americans that yes, this country is going to emerge as a new Islamic country, and then finally they were on board about the division of India and the creation of Pakistan. And you can look at the 50s, at the 60s, what happened, and then the Afghanistan, then the Iranian Revolution, then Pakistan-India relations. I think Pakistan has stood courageously. It has faced a neighbor, hostile neighbor, which is 5-6 times bigger, which has more resources. And I think when Pakistan speaks, the world listens. What is Modi's tactic right now? To ignore Pakistan. Can you imagine a prime minister of a country locking down a whole region of his country and not saying a single word about the people there? He has not uttered one sentence about the Kashmiris. The whole world is saying, look at their plight, look at their situation. They cannot get food, they cannot get medicine, their children cannot go to school, they are being harassed, they are being attacked, they are being assaulted, captured, imprisoned. Not a word. I mean, what is this world? This is some kind of fantasy world. He wants everybody else to believe that this is normal.
Just to turn a blind eye towards
Absolutely.
this.
And he's trying to ignore Pakistan. He doesn't mention Pakistan anymore. He doesn't mention Prime Minister Imran Khan anymore. As you said, he may not be able to do that in the UN. He may reply back, he may retort back, and he may say that Pakistan has nothing to teach India. By recounting all that we heard already, that where Pakistan is vulnerable, where it can be hit, it can be attacked, he will do all that. If he doesn't do that, then they may use the right of reply again to say those things. Bottom line is that BJP, RSS, they believe in the logic of power. They think India's power is so important, its economic size is so important that the world will fall in. It's a matter of time. And Pakistan can make all the noise it wants, but Pakistan cannot attack India, and so on and so forth. It's a logic of power, basically.
All right. All right.
This is what he's trying.
Right. Logic of power, Dr. Nazir Mahmood Saab. Power is also what the world holds, whether it be the big powers that be the European Union, United States, or other countries that will be talking at the United Nations General Assembly session. And Stefan Dujarric has said, and I quote, that he has said that other countries will also be highlighting the Kashmir issue. It will not just be Pakistan or maybe India in their context and Pakistan in the right context, but other countries will be talking about that as well. Will that not put pressure on India one way or the other? Because nevertheless, we all know 1951, 1957, the two resolutions are still pending in the UN.
Well, logic of power is there, and there is no doubt that Modi regime is a criminal regime. They are committing crime, and Modi has not committed this crime only in Kashmir. We remember Gujarat in 2001, I think, almost 2 decades back. Thousands of Muslims killed, women raped, and all sorts of atrocities were committed. Even America, United States did not allow Modi visa for 10 years almost. Now, if he was not criminal, why visa was denied? And now suddenly this bonhomie between Trump and Modi comes up. So what that means that President Trump has overlooked Modi's criminal background. But Pakistan's success will not be measured and should not be measured only in terms whether the world is listening or not. The world is listening. The world has been listening. There is no, we speak and world listens. But the success, Pakistan's success should be measured in terms of how many condemnations have come up. And as of today, I speak, even our close friends like Saudi Arabia and UAE have not in clear terms condemned. What they have said, you can read these statements again. What they have said that Pakistan and India should resolve this issue with mutual
But that is
consideration.
what all the countries are more or less saying.
Yes.
Apart from Iran that had
that's-
taken out a kind of a pro-Pakistan statement, but apart from that, none of the countries have said.
So that's why I would like to make an analogy with Israel. Israel is also a criminal state. What they have been doing for the past 70 years with Palestinians, everybody knows, the world listens. But the world, even Muslim countries, OIC, I mean, there are 55 countries in Organization of Islamic Countries, but all these countries collectively have not done much to help Palestinian people. Similarly, I see the same kind of apathy
being repeated as far as Kashmir is concerned.
same apathy being repeated, which, our heart bleeds, my heart bleeds, that, open condemnation that should come is not coming. The actions that should have been taken, they have not been taken. No sanctions have been imposed against India. No clear cut, they are not highlighting it. So I think that it is about time that the world community not only listen to Pakistan, but led by the Muslim community, Muslim countries, Organization of Islamic Countries, and United Nations, all they should come forward in unequivocal terms and should condemn. If we are able to get that condemnation of India, I think that will be our success.
All right. Should we limit, Dr. Rifat Saab, to just the condemnation of India, or do you feel that we need to go beyond condemnation of India as far as pressing the world powers to take action? And I think the only way they can listen to is economic action against India. What's your take on that?
Well, I think Pakistan should do several things, including the minimum, which is the verbal condemnation of Indian atrocities, Indian brutalities in Kashmir. And if the other countries join us, well and good. But I think Pakistan should articulate its principled position and warn simultaneously of the dangers which are inherent in Modi's Hindutva policy and Modi's grab for power and what is internally happening to the Indian democracy, because there has been a spate of recent articles, for example, in Foreign Affairs, and Pankaj Mishra, who himself is an Indian, has written a scathing piece about the corrosion of democracy inside India and what does that mean for the neighboring states. So that, I think, should be a crucial element of Prime Minister's speech, warning the world about the dangers that Modi's rise, Hindutva's rise, poses to the peace and security in the region, including what they are doing in Kashmir. That's one. And the second thing is that there are now, as we speak, of the Modi's engagement in Houston. So there are a lot of people who are saying that instead of welcoming Modi's, we should be saying goodbye to Modi. So adios Modi should be the slogan.
People have put on a petition against.
Of course, and there are 100,000 signed petition put out jointly by the Sikhs and the Kashmiris, against Modi's grab for power in Kashmir. And along with that, I think there has been a worldwide movement for asking for the boycott of all the Indian companies which are collaborating with the multinational corporation and they are selling their product. So these are the multiple things, and the most important thing, I think there is a favorable moment for Pakistan because the international media, whether you take the print media, whether you take the broadcast media, they all are talking about Kashmir, and particularly closer to the Prime Minister's address to the UN General Assembly on 27th of September, we will have more of these. There will be a crescendo that will get built to the Prime Minister's speech. So it's up to the Prime Minister how articulately and how effectively he puts out Pakistan's case on the human rights abuses as well as the Kashmiri's right to self-determination. So I think Pakistan is a great opportunity for Pakistan to fight its case, and no person is better able to do this than our Prime Minister, whether he speaks from the text or he speaks
because he speaks very eloquently and he conveys his message through whatever means he can.
Absolutely.
Now, Saeed Khalid Saab, there are a lot of meetings, as I said. Not only will there be a meeting of the OIC contact group, there will be a trilateral summit meeting between Malaysia, Turkey and Pakistan as well on the sidelines. There are also a contact group on Kashmir. There is also other meetings, a lot of other meetings that are happening as well. Pakistan has been effectively conveying its point of view as far as Kashmir, as far as its stance is concerned on different issues. Kashmir being one of them. I mean, there is the Palestinian issue, there is the Middle Eastern issue, there is the recently also Israel has announced that it wants to annex a part of Jordan, the valley. So there are many things that are happening around the world. What I want to understand from you, being a seasoned diplomat, is that keeping all the different issues that are prevailing in the world, will the issue of Indian occupied Kashmir still continue to be highlighted to the maximum during Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to the US, or do you feel that other issues might also take precedence?
Looking at it from Pakistan's perspective, we should understand what is going to be the impact of these couple of days.
All right.
What is said during these days. The Prime Minister is not only going to address the plenary session and give an important policy statement, he will be meeting on the sidelines, I'm sure, a certain number of leaders, important leaders.
Of course.
And so I think as far as sensitization of the international opinion is
also
concerned.
the Asia Society of Council of Foreign Relations,
Yes.
he will be addressing that as well.
Absolutely. I think we couldn't get a better opportunity than this.
All right.
To sensitize the international opinion, the American, their intelligentsia and so on,
Fine.
the media also. But let's look a little beyond what happens after this last week of September. It will come and it will be gone. It will be over. The leaders would have spoken. They would have done their canvassing, lobbying. They would have met so many other leaders. Sorry, where do we go from there? In my own humble judgment, this is a long
battle that Pakistan
battle.
has to wage.
And this is going to continue. That young Kashmiri leader who was in the Indian Administrative Service and
Who
now
resigned.
He's under detention with
Yes.
the others. He said this is the next 70 years now.
All right.
He says 70 years behind, and what India has done on August 5, 70 years ahead.
All right.
So I think we need to plan accordingly.
Okay.
And if I may add that if we could hold bilateral talks with India after the tragedy of East Pakistan, we should think about that.
Holding talks with India.
I think it is.
All right.
It is a-
Dr. Nazir Mahmood Saab, holding talks with India. India on different fora, whether it be at Biarritz or other forums, says it's a Indian occupied Kashmir is a bilateral issue. Now, for example, let's cite for the best of cases, best of scenarios. India and Pakistan managed to talk to each other. The two prime ministers sit down, whether in the presence of US President Trump or not, and they decide to talk, or they talk out. How important or not will this talk or discussion be as far as highlighting the issue and trying to find a resolution to the Indian occupied Kashmir issue is concerned?
I think this was a very good point that Sayyid Iqbal Sabri raised, and especially coming from a former ambassador, that carries a lot of weight, and I fully support this idea. Why? He gave very right example that even after debacle of Dhaka, fall of Dhaka, if Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto could go and sign the Shimla agreement, there should always be door open for negotiation. So I think, because as he said that once the last week of September is over, the world will move on, and it is about time that both India and Pakistan should get out of their Kashmir-centric approach. We have suffered a lot. Both India and Pakistan have suffered a lot for the past 70 years, and likely solutions are there. There are 3 or 4 solutions.
But there were times when we were very near to a solution.
During Pervez Musharraf's, General Pervez Musharraf's time, we heard that it was about to be signed, but then in the end something happened from both sides and then it fizzled out. This should not happen again, and I think we should come forward. I think in this United Nations General Assembly meeting, what Modi will say, Modi will again repeat the same mantra, blaming Pakistan for terrorism. This they have been doing
on and on.
And Pakistan will go on and on about Kashmir, as we have been doing for the past 70 years. And all prime minister in Pakistan also, whoever went to address UN, we have repeated our position. Right?
All right.
But now it is about time that both India and Pakistan started thinking out of the box solutions and reach a conclusion that what are 3 or 4 possible solutions. I mean, India, one solution, as India occupies the whole of Kashmir, that is not possible. Pakistan will not allow that. Other solution is Pakistan goes and occupied Indian Kashmir. That is also not possible. Third solution is Kashmir becomes an independent country. Fourth solution is both of them accept the control line.
But the most important thing of all, Dr. Saab, which you are not pointing out, is that the people of Indian occupied Kashmir need to be given their right to self-determination. Let them decide.
Yes, that is the point. Now, ideally, there should be plebiscite according to the UN resolution, and that we have been demanding for long. But India is not agreeing to that. So the other option is that the situation, as he mentioned, that we have spent 70 years in the past and we will spend another 70 years following the same policy. So I think that both India and Pakistan should start thinking out of the box, should sit together, whether through mediation of Trump or not, that is not important.
Right.
Even if there are bilateral
But you remember, Dr. Saab, very well in the past as well, nothing has happened just due to bilateral negotiations. There's always been a third party or more than one party that has been on the side, that has been pushing both India and Pakistan. Hasn't that been the case?
Well, ideally, if America is ready to mediate and India agrees, because for mediation, both parties should agree. Both India and Pakistan, the third party can intervene only if both parties agree.
Yes.
If both parties
mostly
don't agree,
it is for India to agree. To be very frank, it is for India to say, yes, all right, we want to talk. Dr. Saab, Dr. Rifat Hussain Saab, out of the box solutions. It's a very nice term when we talk about out of the box solutions.
Umar, we must take into consideration what the Indians have done vis-a-vis Kashmir. By revoking the Article 370, by turning the Indian, by Jammu and Kashmir, whole of Jammu and Kashmir as union territory, and by doing the same vis-a-vis Ladakh. So Indians have created a new reality. If Pakistan engages at this particular time with India, so Pakistan will only be helping India legitimize its claim over Kashmir. So there should be talks. Definitely there should be talks, but we must impose certain conditions that unless and until some of these steps are reversed, unless Kashmiris are given the right to breathe, to live their space, and to normalize their life, unless those conditions are met, no talks will be taking place. And Prime Minister Imran Khan has laid down these conditions. So this is not the time to think of the out of the box solution. Indians have presented you with a final solution that the Indian effort is to gobble up Kashmir and ask Pakistan to accept it. It reminds
and also in the long term, ask for Pakistan to give its part of Kashmir.
And the Indian leadership, including the defense minister, including Amit Shah, their home minister,
That troika.
including their foreign minister, they are talking about that the next step of negotiation will be to talk about the leftover part of the
Exactly.
Kashmir, which is the India. So this is an unequal level, unequal playing field in which Pakistan should not be talking to the Indians at all. If at all the talks have to commence, they have to commence in the context of Indians lifting the veil of oppression under which entire Kashmir has disappeared.
That is so true. Now, Saeed Khalid Saab, unequal level playing field. We've seen that coming from India. It's nothing new, but it has taken a new turn since the 5th of August. Now, how important in all of this context is the lobbying that both India and Pakistan have been doing in the different Committee of Nations? Pakistan's lobbying has become very aggressive in the last 1 year. It wasn't as aggressive in the very past, and I think as a diplomat, I don't know whether you agree to it or not. That's my take on it. How important and how much of success do you feel Pakistan's side of lobbying has achieved in the last 365 days in order to portray Pakistan's point of view, and how much of that will play during Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to the US and his speech in the UN General Assembly?
I mean, let's survey the situation chronologically. That when Mr. Modi got re-elected, Prime Minister Imran Khan made an offer of talks.
Yes. One step you come and two steps we'll come from our side.
And now, that was in May. So after May, June, July, August, September, 4 months nearly, where are we? In between, we know what happened in Kashmir, what India has tried to do. It hasn't succeeded. It's trying something. It has tried to do
And
something.
Ambassador Saab, you should also not forget the hints of false flag operations that have been time and again given
Yes.
by our Prime Minister and our Foreign Minister,
Yes.
that this is what they might also be trying to do.
I think that was good offensive defense. Now, where are we now? The Foreign Minister has clearly stated that India must lift the curfew before we can have talks.
Exactly.
So we are talking about talks. And
But under certain conditions,
of
as
course,
Dr. Rifat
of course.
pointed
And
out.
let's not forget that after the 1965 war, India and Pakistan met in Tashkent. And the settlement or the text which was agreed there, it was not to be considered good for Pakistan. So from 1965 to 72, you can see a change of approach.
All right.
That Mr. Bhutto accepts to go to India. He says no need to go to any third place where a third party will be like hovering over, as we talk.
All right.
He accepted to go to India
All right.
in extremely adverse conditions. And I think that he got an honorable deal.
All right. Dr. Rifat, you wanted to add something to
Well,
that.
I just wanted to add, I don't want to be critical of my former ambassador's position, but there's a critical difference between what happened at Tashkent and what happened at Shimla, because at that particular time, the documents that came out of those meetings, both the Tashkent Declaration and the Shimla Agreement, talked about Kashmir's, Pakistan's stated position on Kashmir, UN resolutions, and without compromising whatever was agreed in those documents, without compromising Pakistan's stated position on Kashmir. But now if you talk to India in that context, there is no Pakistan's there's no position on stated position on Kashmir, because the Indians have taken the ultimate step of absorbing the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir into the Union territory. So there's nothing that the Indians are. I would love to see India talking about Pakistan's stated position or the recognizing the disputed nature of the Kashmir dispute, which they never will. If they were if they were so eager to talk to Pakistan in those terms, they would not have taken the step that they did on 5th of August. So I think the realities are very different from what happened in 72 and what happened in 1966. So the two analogies do not hold together.
All right. Dr. Nazir Saab, in all of this context that both of my guests have been talking about, the Ashkan Simla agreements, and now our Prime Minister is in the US, and of course the United Nations General Assembly session is on. In all of this context, in all of the lobbying, in all of the talks, in all of the discussions, in all of the meetings that are going to be held from the Pakistani side, and of course the Indian side will also be doing their part, do you think that there is an option of India reverting its decision of scrapping Article 370 or 35A? Is there an option?
Well, I would like to think that, but as ground reality show, in the immediate future, I don't see any reversal. That reversal is possible, was possible only if the world would have, come out and condemned India, impose some sanctions. There are two examples I would like from the world history. One was the Soviet Union and the other was South Africa. Soviet Union, when attacked Afghanistan, there was a boycott, economic sanctions were imposed, Olympics were boycotted in 1980, Moscow Olympics. And we saw that with that reaction, within a decade, Soviet Union was no more. South Africa also faced sanctions, world sanctions. The world practically boycotted South Africa because of its apartheid policy. What is happening in Kashmir is also kind of an apartheid at the moment against the Kashmiri people. It is no less than that. So ideally world should come out with the same strategy that they used against the Soviet Union and against South Africa. If that happens, then India will be forced to reverse its decision. At the moment, as I said, as realities are showing, that is not happening. Talk about United Nations or world community, as I said, even our OIC has not come up openly and condemned and imposed sanctions.
The only thing that's asked talk about is that both countries should sit down. In
fact, they have given the medal also. They have awarded medal also to Modi now, and this is a very wrong time, inauspicious time, I should say. But they have done it.
All right.
So,
yes,
Said Saab, you wanted to say something.
I'm thankful to Dr. Rifat for explaining the difference in the situation from 65 to 72 and now. The thing is that while I have said in principle that the two countries can talk, I'm not sure if the RSS handlers are going to allow Modi and his government that kind of latitude.
But isn't Modi part of the same RSS handler? Isn't he RSS as well?
Yes, but the Grundnorm comes from them.
All right, all right. So it's as if somebody else is kind of holding the strings.
Absolutely.
All right. Dr. Rifat Saab, my last comment to you, my last question, let's put it that way, is keeping in view all that has been happening, and I think everybody knows what has been happening, especially people like yourself. All three guests of mine know exactly. They've been reading, they've been talking at different fora. What are the options that are present for Pakistan, believable, realistic options that you feel can happen post Prime Minister Imran Khan's trip to the US and his address to the United Nations General Assembly? Because I am sure other countries are going to talk about the Kashmir issue. I'm sure that India will try to sideline the Kashmir issue as much as possible and put all the onus of the blame on Pakistan. But what are the options, the realistic things that will eventually come out, keeping in context that since 1951 and 1957, the two resolutions on Kashmir are still there and nothing has been done on it?
Well, I think one thing is historical, that you would recall that in the late 30s, when the question of Czechoslovakia's independence arose, and in Munich, the Czech Prime Minister along with the British Prime Minister, they met Hitler. And they asked the poor Czech Prime Minister to agree to the absorption of Sudetenland, which was part of Czechoslovakia. So that gave so in the hope that Hitler's Hitler's aggression will get appeased, but it did not get appeased, and the result was Second World War II. So, if Modi's continued suppression of Indians' right to self-determination persists, and the Kashmir Valley continues to burn with Indian atrocities, so then there can be never be any peace in South Asia. So that's the danger that we need to highlight. One. The second most important thing is that Pakistan's greatest challenge will be to keep the Kashmir issue alive by talking about diplomatic options, by talking about what can Pakistan do to ameliorate the Kashmiri situation, and keep the world's attention focused on this. And as I said, that there is a great moment of opportunity because the world media, the human rights organization, all across the board, they are talking about the Kashmir.
And they are on the same page when it comes to it. All right. Thank you very much to all my three guests, Ambassador Saeed Khalid Saab, Dr. Nazir Mahmood Saab, and Dr. Rifat Hussain Saab, for your very eloquent, frank, candid points of views on this very important visit of Imran Khan Saab to the US and also his address to the United Nations General Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, we all are pinning our hopes on this visit of Imran Khan Saab to the US and his address to the UN General Assembly. As Stefan Dujarric also said, that a lot of other countries will be talking of the Kashmir issue, and we hope and we sincerely pray that of some kind of tangible agreement or a resolution or a way ahead for the appeasement of this situation in the occupied Kashmir comes after this United Nations General Assembly session, because peace, after all, is very important, especially to South Asia. Umar Khalid Butt bids you farewell from this special transmission. Take care of yourselves.